All right. Well, then let's just take a moment to set our motivation. Of all the things we could be doing on Thanksgiving Eve, we've chosen to come here, cultivate compassion, wisdom in our lives. And it's nice to really set a strong intention for why we're here as we cultivate virtuous activities in our life. Setting the intention is the heaviest weight. So from our side, we like to set the motivation that this is for the benefit of all beings, that whatever wisdom or merit I accumulate here as I sit here, I really want to use it so I can be of benefit out there for all living beings. So from my side, set that intention. From your side, I invite you to set whatever intention you'd like. Then. Why are you here tonight? What do you hope to get out of it? How would you like to use it? So just take a moment, a few breaths to become present, and set your intention, your motivation for being here today. All the things we could be doing on this Wednesday evening, chosen to come here. Okay, I invite you to relax, a nice straight back. We'll do just a 15-minute meditation, and being that it's Thanksgiving Eve, we'll spend a little time cultivating thoughts on gratitude. Let the bell be an invitation for your awareness to descend into your body and just take a few moments to be aware of your body, resting your awareness in whatever feels solid in your body. Obvious places are where it comes in contact with the chair, cushion, the floor. It could be your hands. Just let your awareness settle into your body, resting in whatever feels solid. Now we want to take a little time to just relax the body. So now just let each in-breath be an invitation to relax. And each out-breath an opportunity to release. Releasing tension and worries, time constraints, and concerns. Just let each in-breath be a soothing invitation to relax any tension you have in your body. And each out-breath an opportunity to release, letting go. You notice any tension in your body, just breathe into it, relax it, exhale and release. Now I invite you to take a little time to call to mind numerous things that we have to be grateful for. There's so much suffering and struggle in the world. So many people are just trying to survive today. There's pain and suffering. Syria, faraway places, here at home in Ferguson. But we don't need to go that far. We know that there's people in our own lives that are struggling. And amongst all the struggling, let's take a moment to call to mind all the things that we have to be grateful for. Simple as being able to see, read and write, our friendships, the opportunities in front of us. Take a moment to just reflect on the incredible opportunities that you have in your life. We have so much to be grateful for. We have such opportunity and leisure. We have a rare and precious human birth. It's time to reflect upon the impermanent nature of this incredible opportunity. For we won't have this life forever. We don't know whether it'll end tomorrow or 20 years from now. But we do know that this day will never come again. How many days in our life have come and gone without us reflecting upon the meaning of our life, the opportunity of our life, the things we would have liked to have done, the people we would have liked to call, but didn't. I invite you now to just take a moment or two to reflect upon the impermanent nature of our lives, the fact that it won't last forever, calling to mind what we'd really like to do with our life. The only thing that separates the person you are today from the person you want to be are the actions you take. You have the opportunity to cultivate the seeds of wisdom and virtue in your own life. The ability to make this transformation comes with the ability to direct our attention so that we can be present to make the choices that are healthy. The best tool to cultivate this attentional balance is the practice of shamatha, training the mind to attend to that which we choose to. So setting that intention to cultivate concentration. We'll take a few minutes to simply rest your awareness now on the breath, knowing that each mindful breath you take, you are cultivating attentional balance and the ability to make healthy choices in your life. So now, with a relaxed body, rest all of your awareness on the breath as it enters and exits your body. Let the breath be natural. Just observe it. And when you're ready, bring your awareness forward. No hurries, no worries. It's nice to transition smoothly, easily. Okay. Welcome once again. So we're wrapping up the 7-point mind training. We may finish it up today. We may not. Things often go other than I planned. But there's really just a few more. And they're going to really wrap up a really beautiful practice. Addressing, going back to Aaron's question, when we're thinking about, am I digging a hole 100 feet deep or a lot of holes just a foot deep? There's measurements that we can start to really put into practice in our mind. And that is this path from the Buddhist path of the Eightfold Path has 3 higher trainings: ethics, concentration, and wisdom. And if we can really keep it that simple, we can start to understand, is this practice helping me cultivate concentration? It's like shamatha. If I have some concentration, I can actually be present some of the time. Ultimately, all the time. There's a practice where you could even be conscious in your sleep. But let's shoot for a little bit of time first. So much of our day, we're just not there. We're just not there to make a choice. Things come and go, and events happen, and a whole hour's gone by, or 2 hours have gone by. And, we sat down at a computer to do one thing, we did 20 other things. Forgot why I even sat down, and what was that I sat down for? We were gone. And somebody calls us, I was about to do something, and then, I'm gone for a few hours. And our attention just draws us away. And there's so much of the day we're not there, and we do a lot of things automatically. It's amazing how much, one of my more recent practices has been watching my words. And I'll watch my words coming out before I've actually selected them. Consciously, it's just odd. Somebody says something and you catch yourself saying that stuff. And you don't want to catch it, The other day I was calling someone, who's struggling, right? So I'm calling to check in, and automatically, it was a voicemail, automatically, hey, hope you're doing good. And I know they're not, but it came out before, it's like, oh, and it's on recording. I can't have it back, well, as good as you can under the circumstances, it's like, but it flew out before I consciously had a thought. And we have that in our interactions with people. Hey, how you doing? And it comes out quicker than I chose. And so, may not happen to you. It happens to me frequently, though. So if I can cultivate some concentration, the ability to be where I am and be present, it's going to help me make choices. The ethics are the ground of all spiritual growth. The ethics are what allow us to clear away karmic imprints, to see this world more clearly, to create good conditions in my life, to give myself some inner peace so that I can actually cultivate more concentration. If I'm struggling, don't feel good, have shame and guilt, or don't feel good about it, I can't meditate very well. I'm not going to cultivate much concentration. If I don't cultivate concentration, well, I'm not there to make the good choices. In order to have ethical choices, you got to be there to make the choice. And so we react to life, and we do things that we regret, and we say things before, and we react. So you can see where they feed each other. Ethics, concentration. The more I can concentrate and tame my mind, the more I can make the ethical choices of being the person I want to be. And by ethics, I'm talking about your ethics. I'm talking about the person you want to be. And the more ethical I am, the more peace I have. So when I go to meditate, my concentration is better. Very synergetic. And the last piece is wisdom. This other piece of wisdom, if I can, they tend to teach it as the more ethical I am, then I can develop my concentration. As I develop my concentration, the more ethical I can be, and I can bring wisdom in now to see my choices more clearly, to see the world more accurately, to understand the real workings of how I interact in the world and how the world truly is. And that's cultivation of wisdom is what's going to liberate us from all of our mental afflictions, of all the suffering. And by suffering, I'm talking about mental suffering and afflictions. You always want to make clear that a friend on Saturday says, well, you can still have pain, right? Don't take my pain away. Yeah, pain's necessary. One of the mental afflictions is avoiding pain when it's necessary. By stuffing it, not dealing with it, not confronting it, I actually create a lot more mental afflictions. Pain is necessary. It tells us what to look at. And mental suffering, anger, resentment, jealousy, frustration, agitation, depression, these things are mental afflictions, and those can be eliminated. And that's the path to eliminate those. And so we're talking about mental sufferings. So the three higher trainings are called ethics, concentration, and wisdom are the embodiment of the Eightfold Path to Enlightenment. So if we're looking at our whole, all we have to know is what we're doing. Is this helping me concentrate better? Is this helping me make healthier choices in my life, more ethical? And is this helping me see the world more clearly and deal with my mental afflictions? If so, it fits in this category. I'm digging the same hole. Doesn't matter what the practice is. We just want to know, oh yeah, it's giving me more wisdom. It's allowing me to cultivate merit and wisdom. Merit meaning good karma, and wisdom to see the world more clearly. So in that sense, this particular teaching teaches us that every moment of our life is our practice, and that everything we do can be cultivating merit and wisdom and embracing the tools of the three higher trainings. Everything I'm doing, I can choose to respond to life's events in a way that is going to increase wisdom or virtue. So they're all tools for that, if we stick with them. Which brings us right to our next point here. So we're in the 7th point. We're at the 16th practice of the 7th point. I think it's around slogan 55, something like that. You're sitting there, Mateo's probably knows. I'm guessing. Close, right? I'm in the ballpark, thanks. So the 7-point mind training is often called the 59 slogans. And each of these slogans, if you can memorize the slogans and you understand the unpacking, the teaching behind it, it's a nice way to remember them. So they teach it in that sort of method. So 7 points, they have all these sub-points. We're at the 16th. Buddhists are good with numbers, right? Eightfold Path, 300, yeah. And, but we want to not worry about the numbers. The reason they have these sort of things you think of as slogans, you can call out the slogan in mind. Like blame all on one, right? Then you can go, okay, yeah, that means. So it's a nice thing. So in this one, we're at the last few of our 7 point. And I think this is one that really gets at the core of the practice and what we've been talking about. Free yourself by means of investigation and analysis. Free yourself by means of investigation and analysis. And what this means is we want to really look at ourselves, investigate, and identify our predominant mental afflictions. Because each of us have stronger ones in a certain area. We all have different types of things. Some people might be a little more quick to anger. Some people might be a little more jealous. Some people might be a little too attached. And as we start to identify the things in our lives that are the predominant ones, we want to investigate those. One path of this is to look at, there's what they call 5 poisons. There's 3 root poisons. Here I am with the numbers again. But often there's 5 predominant ways that we really create issues in our life. Number 1 is just misperception, and that's just pervasive ignorance, they call it. Not that we're ignorant, we're misperceiving things. We just don't see things clearly. And that's where, I really think that the person yelling at me is the cause of my anger. And they're really not the cause of my anger. My anger is really coming from me. And my anger is the real enemy, not him. He's going to come and go. Believe it or not, even when he's not here, I can get angry. Even when he's not yelling at me, I can get angry. Matter of fact, I can think about him a week from now and still get angry. He's not the cause of the anger. He can't be the cause of the anger. So one of the really big predominant things is that we make things real permanent that aren't permanent. We label things in a way that we don't really understand. These things are temporary, they'll come and go, and because of that ignorance causes a lot of problems. So that's a pervasive one. Attachments, one thing that gets us into a lot of trouble. And attachment's a really subtle thing, so a lot of times instead of the word attachment, they'll use anger. Because that can also be translated as one of the poisons. So sometimes they'll say it's misperception, anger, or no, not attachment. I'm sorry, aversion would be the anger. Attachment, aversion. So, are we a really angry person? And does that arise quickly? Do I feel angry quickly? Is that something? And we identify that. And do I get jealous? Jealous. Pride, that's another one. And the attachment are we, one of those people that has all those belongings stored nicely in the closet that we don't ever look at, but they're really important. And I'm not letting go. And I haven't even seen it in 5 years. But when I do, this is really wonderful. And trying to preserve that. And that can create problems. Venerable Robina Corton, who we've had the pleasure of watching videos here, she'll say, pretty straightforward, love cannot hurt. Love never hurts. Attachment does. And so we can see the difference here. So in this one, they're saying, well, let's identify some of the things that really cause problems in our lives, some of these mental afflictions that are a little more predominant. And it's funny because I have two texts, same person wrote them. I have the 7-point mind training we've been doing. He also wrote another version, Buddhism with an Attitude. I love that. And it almost seems like the advice is opposite in both books on this particular one. It's funny, as we write something and where we're at in different places, and he made the point that when you're giving a commentary, a good teacher can give, I forget how many different examples of a valid interpretation and a valid practice based on where you're at. So one of them would say that if I can see the triggers of that particular, whether it's anger, let's say I'm an angry person, and I can notice the triggers of that, I can put myself in those positions where that anger gets triggered, and I can work with it. And the other book says, don't do that. It says that notice the triggers and try to avoid them until you're healthier overall. And but either way, we ultimately want to be able to identify and analyze, and this is what liberates us, to see that the anger, the true enemy is the anger, it's not the person. Okay, it's not the person. The person's a condition. And you'll notice that on a different day, if you're in a good mood and everything was going your way, the same person saying the same thing does not cause the anger. I'm a little sick, a little agitated, not feeling well, or I just got some bad news, and now this person says something. Same thing. Now I have anger. What's really changed is my mental state. The real cause of anger is within us. The condition of the anger is outside of us. The condition is what arises. So the person there becomes a condition. So I saw you wincing, so I'm going to give you the tree analogy. They would say that the real cause for a tree is not the dirt, not the sun. What's the cause for a tree? It's the seed. The seed is the cause of the tree. It has to be the same stuff. So the seed grows into a tree. That's the cause. The conditions that allow the tree to grow are the soil, the sun, the water, etc. Those are conditions that allow it to grow. My anger is a mental state. What's the cause of it? It's my own mental state. It's my own consciousness. That's where the anger lives. The person that I'm getting angry at is a condition from which my anger can arise, but they're not the cause. And if we kind of get this and understand, and that's really the point here, is identify and analyze, we'll start to realize that the real enemy is not that person. The real enemy is my anger. My anger is robbing me of my healthy choices and the person I want to be. And that's coming from me. And it's coming from how I'm perceiving this person and how I'm attaching to some sense of me. And the fascinating piece there is that person will come and go. My anger will come and go. But when I'm angry, I'm really identified. I am that anger. And we'll make it a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Man, I'm so unfair. Anger will normally just come and go quickly. Any emotion we have, this is just Western psychology. It's temporary. It doesn't last. We re-trigger an anger. Right? There's 9 ways to trigger an emotion. And one of the most common, thinking about it. Talking about it. So what do? Yeah, we talk about it. We call our friends. We, tell people and, get really righteous. And we actually fuel and we water the seeds of anger. And which creates, a lot of more mental afflictions. So this piece here is to start to pay attention to that. And if we can recognize that the anger itself is the enemy, not the person, then we can work with the anger. What do I need to do to see things differently? Which doesn't mean that we let people treat us poorly or do anything. That's not what this says. It says, we respond appropriately because we are not removing suffering by allowing people to do harmful things, right? We remove suffering by responding in a healthy way to this person or the event that's happening. And we can do that out of compassion instead of anger. Compassion is about removing suffering. I have compassion. I don't want you to suffer. I don't want to suffer. So out of compassion, I'm going to be much more resourceful with how I can respond to the situation. It's not personal, right? The person who's yelling at us is suffering. Nobody's yelling because they're happy. It doesn't work like that. It's funny how pissed off we get. Who is that person to suffer in my face? Really, to suffer right in front of me like that. My gosh. What a jerk. But in fact, that's what's happening, right? They're just miserable and it's blurring, and it's obvious. But we're not seeing that. We're just feeling the personal attack. And it's not personal. They're just sharing what they have. They're miserable. And how often we can shift that out of compassion and say, I'm really sorry. I can see you're upset. What can I do to help? Boy, you see how that just takes the wind out of that sometimes. But we get pissed off. And you're not going to talk to me like that. And we respond with anger. So this is where we are just compounding a problem. We're feeding anger. We're creating more negative imprints for anger and more karma and klesha and mental afflictions rather than responding with compassion. Having good boundaries, not allowing people to do things that are harmful, but being able to listen to them and respond to them in a way that's more skillful. That would remove the suffering. People want to be heard, and when people are suffering, they're suffering. We see someone in a wheelchair, instant compassion. See someone yelling at you, no compassion. The person in a wheelchair might be fine. The person yelling at you, I guarantee, is not fine. And so understanding this is we want to analyze and work with it because we don't normally think about this, right? We normally think, what a jerk. Can you believe that? Man, we'd be married to that person. Like you've never yelled at anybody. Like you've never been upset. Like I've never been a jerk. I've mastered injuredness in my lifetime. And all those things we get angry at people for, come on, I've done them. I've cut people off. I've been inconsiderate. I've lied. That whole list of things that I'm coloring other people with. I'm guaranteeing you, I've done it. Probably with gusto. But I'm not stuck like that. I'm not stuck like that, and nor are any of us. We can all change, and we are changing. And if we understand that, these things are temporary, and we gain some wisdom about how they really work, that the person's suffering, that's why they're yelling. We have to be present. That's where, the ability to be present, to concentrate, to bring my attention here in a clear way, to not let my emotions grab me and take me away. To know that my emotions are valid, they're going to come and go, but I am not them. I am not my emotions. I am experiencing them. They will come and go. Still going to be here. And unfortunately, you're going to remind me tomorrow what I said today. So I do want to be able to make that healthy choice. And so in this particular one, it says analyze, investigate and analyze what's the real enemy. What are the mental afflictions that really create problems in my life? And investigate their source. And then we can work with them. And if we work with the biggest ones first, that's the point of this one. Identify the worst ones first. And we'll start to see how we can make a little more peace in our life. And we're not going to be so reactive. Because when the mental affliction clicks in, when we're in an emotion, it's hard to make healthy choices. Once I'm angry, forget about it. It's we want to catch it when it's a spark, not when it's a flame. And once it's a flame, then we're trouble. But we can recognize that when we're angry, we have some things to do. There's antidotes. What would you think? It's often people talk about the antidote to hate. The antidote to hatred being love. You can't have both mental states at the same time. But one of the things they teach most for anger is patience. There's an antidote, patience. It just didn't make sense to me at first. I'm sitting there and old Geshe's giving this talk, and I'm waiting for all the antidotes, waiting my notes. It says anger, patience. What? Patience. But it totally makes sense when you think about it, because the anger will come and go. And what's your grandmother tell you to do when you're angry? Count, go breathe, get out. Right? It's patience. They're buying you time. They're buying you time. So patience is. So as we get angry, we can apply an antidote of breathing and being patient, getting out of the situation without saying something. As we can cultivate patience, will also provides this antidote to watching these emotions come and go. And so if we can identify, let's say I know anger is mine, let's just say that, then I know what I'm going to work on is patience. I'm going to notice when my anger is rising. I'm going to work on just feeling my body get tight and breathing through it and trying to not say anything right now. And I can work with it. If it's jealousy, jealousy is one. Pride is really, troublesome one. I always see, you see those bumper stickers. I'm proud of my honor roll student, and pride. And pride's this interesting thing because it's, I'm better than you, really. Pride. Which is different than good self-esteem. Good self-esteem is, I feel competent and I can do things, but pride is, that gets us into me against you. It causes separation and as this affliction. So it's a really interesting thing. I'm proud of my daughter. I have 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters, and we can be, I like to use the word I admire who they are. But when we start getting to be proud of that, well, wouldn't I be proud of your daughters and your kids and, what other people are doing? So there's always this issue with translation from a Tibetan to English. So there's a sense that we could use pride in a healthy way. As a high school teacher, And, you know, I write in the yearbook sometimes, you know, I'm really proud of the person you've become. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying they're better than other people. They're better than the person they were. And that's really the goal here, is not for me to be better than you. The real goal is for me to be better than the person I was. And that's the piece that we want to work on. So we just want to use it in a way that is meaningful. And if pride's coming from a place where me being, you know, my accomplishment and how it distinguishes me from other people, then it's got to be a problem. And on very subtle ways, it creates a lot of problems, even against sports teams and things. You know, that's the fights out in the parking lots and the craziness that goes on. Yeah. So in this one, we are talking about just taking a little time, and I think this is the practice that when we talked about at the start is too often our spiritual practice is, I want to feel good. I want to go do this to feel good, whatever it is, my meditation, my yoga, my retreat, and I'm just chasing feel good. This is the opposite. This is notice where your affliction is and work with it. And so the depth of spiritual practice is getting to the root of the problem. Because if I just keep trying to feel good, I'm not ever going to address the roots, and I can't change. The ultimate practice here is to transform ourselves. And I'm just going to tie this into a Western psychology again. I like it when they match up. They don't always trust me. I read a lot of psychology books. I do cringe. But once you translate the words, you can see how things work. But there's this guy, Dan Gilbert, The Science of Happiness, Harvard psychologist, great guy. And what he notes is that we have a total misperception of happiness, and we exaggerate things. And his research has shown that we have this kind of set point of happiness. That's kind of how we are basically. Since I was a kid, as an adult, there's kind of a set point. We have good moments and we have bad moments, and there's this thing, lots of good things, but it keeps coming back. And his research has shown that all these, more than 3 months ago, it has no impact whatsoever on your level of happiness, including things like winning awards and a divorce. The research has just shown that people are pretty much like that. And that's the problem with the spiritual supermarket and the 100 holes a foot deep. Yeah, you know, I went to this retreat. It was blissful. I'm amazed. Never been as clear as can be. 2 weeks later, I'm pissed off, raging in the supermarket for whatever. Because, you know, I'm waiting for my plane. It didn't come. Angry. And I'm back at the same thing. And so the analogy they used in this book is it's like taking a shower in knowledge and wisdom and virtue and clear and walking out of the retreat and jumping in a mud hole. And if we really want to make the change, if we want to transform our set point of this being, these habits and conditionings that we're carrying, we really want to start applying the 3 concentration ethics. If we apply that as a path and start applying wisdom, I'm going to start creating different karma in my life. I'm going to start creating things differently. I'm going to respond more accurately. And your level and who you were and your habits and conditioning actually change. Now, and I can just show this from personal experience. 30 years ago when I started this path, I was pessimistic, miserable, low self-esteem. Shame was my primary factor. I couldn't look in the mirror. And if somebody, I mean, literally, they'd say, hey, you want to go to the beach? You know what my thought was? Beach? Never get parking, too much sun, get sand, I'll probably get sunburned. Hell no. You know, some people, you want to go to the beach? Yeah, let's go have a good time. Not me, you know. Go to the supermarket, there's not going to be any parking. I'll have to sit back. I wouldn't even try to park up front. There's no way I'd get a spot. Pessimism was just, you know, that was my go-to. And it was all, you know, I was just on how can I survive without, you know, it's just, you know. Now, that's not who I am today. some people know me as I'm relatively optimistic, to say the least. And the trajectory of that has been a path of really living more ethically. That's the number one thing. If we do things that we feel really good about, that are meaningful, it changes your level of being, your inner well-being. And then if I can start having some concentration, making healthy choices. So what happens is that set point that the science is saying we can alter that. And that's really the path of Dharma, to eliminate mental afflictions in our life, to eliminate that suffering, and to change our very being in a way that is much more peaceful and serene and clear and genuinely happy. And by genuine happy, that doesn't mean I'm grinning all the time. It means even when times are tough, underneath it, I know it's going to be okay. This is life. Life is messy. And so that's what all of these teachings come down to. And so instead of just jumping from the next feel-good spiritual experience, these teachings say, my practice is not my meditation. My practice is not, whatever asanas I'm doing. My practice is not the retreat. My practice is, how am I treating my neighbor? My practice is, how am I at work? My practice is, am I attentive to my partner in relationship? My practice is, how do I deal with the person yelling in front of me? Now I'm utilizing my practice. The meditation, or the other practices that clear us up for a bit, fuel us up so we can go do our practice. So again, the mind training is about every moment of your life is your practice. And the fruit, the real gift that we have, is we can actually progress a lot more quickly. Because if we bring our practice into the challenges of life, dealing with the boss I don't like, the neighbor I don't get along with, whatever it is, and Thanksgiving, I don't know, you might be dealing with some relatives you struggle with, just guessing. It might be a really good opportunity to really meet them where they are, and live in a moment of really gratitude with them and start changing things. Okay. 17th practice. And this is one translation here is, don't be boastful. Don't be boastful. And it's a funny dynamic with our Western culture. I work with a lot of people that one of the primary challenges is we're just hard on ourselves. We're just hard on ourselves. We'll make a list of all the things I'm not doing. I'm trying to be a Dharma practitioner, but I don't meditate every day. And I'm not doing this, and I could have done that. And we just, you could have done 100 really good things. And you know what? You lose your temper and you yell at somebody. And I beat myself up. How could I have done that? I'm so terrible. And so it's interesting because from a Tibetan Buddhist point of view, we don't cheer ourselves up and boost the self-esteem because in general they already feel pretty good. A different mental state of being that if you're raised in an Asian culture in Buddhist philosophy since a kid, you know what you're taught because you're taught you have Buddha nature, you have pureness in you, and that's your ultimate nature. And all this other stuff we do is stuff that's just clogging us up. But it's not who you are. You have Buddha nature inside you. So they don't have these hang-ups that we do. We have original sin. We have pull yourself up from the bootstrap. You were born, you've already sinned. And, you are as good as your last, whatever you did that was good. And what have you done for me lately? And so in this culture, we always have to be really gentle around something like this. When we talk about, we don't want to be boastful, we don't want to keep seeking that outward validation, but we really want to acknowledge the good that we do. We want to know that we're okay, and we want to know that just as you are okay. And that, we're going to do stupid stuff. We're going to get angry. We're going to do things. Those things don't define us. They will come and go. And every day you are born anew. It's what you do today that matters most. And I'll guarantee you, if you made a list of the good things you did and the things that you don't like, the list of good things is going to just vastly outweigh the stupid stuff I've done. And I've done a lot of stupid stuff. But I've done a lot more good stuff, and so have you. And so when we talk about this sense of boastful, it's talking about it in a way that even comes from a sense of insecurity. It comes from, wanting to remind people about, how something you've done that's good and how good it is. And what it does is it's all practices here go to limiting self-cherishing attitude that places me more important than you. And as we're being boastful, I'm trying to grab the limelight. I'm trying to add to my ego. And it actually becomes an impediment to my practice. And, that's where he drops those lines. Yeah, been meditating every day for 3 months. Yeah. Had this direct realization in my meditation. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I donated so much to that thing. Every Sunday I go and take care of that. And that's the kind of stuff they're talking about, where the much more profound practice is, to be the person who does well without letting people know, intentionally. It's okay if they find out, but to allow that to do good because it's good to do good. We don't need people to do that. So in this sense, the boastful actually becomes an inhibitor. It's going in the direct opposite of where we want to go. There's another piece to this, but I think I can use that analogy in another one coming up. Yeah. And next one. Don't bind yourself with hatred is one. But I think another way of translating this is, he says it here, I think, too, is not to retaliate. That, and what it's saying by bind ourselves with hatred is if someone does something that challenges our sense of self or upsets us or gets us angry, we want to retaliate. We want to get even. And as we just talked about earlier, that's the worst thing we can do. Karmically, if I don't want people yelling at me in my life, what should I not do? You should yell, right? Yeah. I don't want people to yell at me out of anger. I should not yell out of anger, because if I yell out of anger, guess what kind of karma I'm creating? People to yell at me out of anger. And yet we do it. It's great. These old lamas say it's almost like we're running towards suffering. It's full force. If I now have some wisdom, I can understand the person's suffering, and I come at it with compassion instead of anger, I'm planting different seeds. And so I'm actually eliminating the causes for people to yell at me out of anger. One of these teachers once was saying, if you want to get rid of an annoying boss, you cultivate compassion and wisdom, and you will get rid of an annoying boss. The boss may still be there, but he will no longer become an annoying boss. Or he might not be there anymore. And it comes from how I'm changing my karma, because my experience of the world is a result of how I'm living. And if I'm planting seeds that can purify this annoyingness, because the annoyance here, it's not out there. You get rid of the annoying boss. So here, if we bind ourselves with the anger, we're letting that anger arise. And as it arises, guess what I'm grabbing onto? John. They're hurting me. They're hurting John, and I'm really identified with John. And again, that's the source of all my suffering. The stronger I grab onto John, the more suffering I have in the world. All dharmas lead to lessening my attachment to John. Not to say that I do anything unhealthy for me, but the sense of self that's that I'm grabbing onto that is more important than everything else. So I don't want to rush through. Next one is don't be fickle. And this is deeper than it sounds. Shouldn't be fickle. Even though it says it doesn't need much commentary. Yeah, it's like one little paragraph. I just want to make sure I'm not... Okay, yeah. So fickle, and in this sense, they're really talking about with our relationships with people. And if we say that we're going to do something for someone, we show up and do it. That, it's funny, I post a quote every day. In the last couple of days, whatever quote I posted seemed relevant. I quote Emerson today, which was, if you want a friend, you have to be a friend. Right? And if you want a good friend, be a good friend. Right? And that's where this is going to. That when we want solid relationships in our life, well, are we solid relationships in our life? Are we calling the people that, are we, that person, well, they never call me anymore. That phone works both ways. Don't be fickle in the way that we, when we say that we're going to do something, try to do it. Try to be the person you want to be. And the only thing that separates the person you want to be from the person you are the actions we take. And it sounds simple, but it's challenging because we have habits and conditionings. A lot of times we wake up today and I'm going to do this, and I really want to do this, and I don't do this. So habits and conditions are tough. So we really want to work at Al-Anon program has a good saying they say a lot, is say what you mean and mean what you say. We admire people like that. We really admire people like that. And if we really want that sense of ourselves, to have solid relationships, to be healthy, is to not be fickle. I've got friends who are just, a couple of them that are just really the nicest people on earth, the most well-meaning. They don't know how to say no. And yeah, I'd love to do that. Yeah, absolutely. And what they do is they overbook themselves. And then they can't do the stuff. And then they're constantly feeling bad. And then their friends are saying, well, you told me to do this. And they would do it in a minute. They would take the shirt off, but they're so busy helping other people who they could at that moment that they can't do these other things. And so that's a trap that gets into, yeah, I want to do it, but we need to be reasonable. Can I help you? I would love to help you. Right now I've got this stuff on my plate, and so I can't right now. So learning that piece, and sometimes ego comes in, and we want people to see us a certain way. And so here, we just want to be authentically who we are. Say no sometimes. Say I'm not able to do this sometimes. But be the friend that we want to have in our lives. So I can't right now. So learning that piece, and sometimes ego comes in, and we want people to see us a certain way. And so here, we just want to be authentically who we are. Say no sometimes. Say I'm not able to do this sometimes. But be the friend that we want to have in our lives. So in our relationships with people, try to say what we mean what we say. And be free to share our limitations. Words like I don't know are valuable. I'm not able to do that are valuable. And much more valuable than trying to put on an image that doesn't really match reality. I'm coming to the last point. And this is one that I think gets us in more trouble than we know on very subtle ways. And it's don't desire gratitude. and they're time out from others. It's okay for you to be grateful. How much do we keep score in our relationships? Right? So we did the 8-point mind train. We talked about when someone we have benefited hurts us very badly, we can see that person as our teacher. I'm not nailing the quote, but it's in that essence. When someone I've benefited and whom I have placed great trust hurts me very badly, I'm practicing that person as my teacher, right? And for me, that's a really valuable process, because if I've helped someone and I've trusted them and they've been a friend in my life, and then they hurt me, well, chances are I expected them to treat me different. Right? How could you do that after all I've done for you? I helped them with a little scorekeeping. I helped that, so yeah. I got something else coming. You should treat me differently. I've helped you. And on subtle ways, think how we do this on very subtle ways. It gets us in a lot of subtle ways. Think how we do this on very subtle ways. It gets us in a lot of... That's different than being in an unhealthy relationship where someone takes advantage of you all the time. That's not healthy. We get out of those. This is on a day-to-day basis, expecting a certain return on our investment in terms of how much I helped you, and keeping track that you'll help me. Again, it comes back to love doesn't hurt, attachment does. There's this, you're going to treat me a certain way. And on a very subtle level, this is really sneaky, expecting gratitude and acknowledgement, that somebody doesn't thank you when they're thanking all the other people about me. And there's a sense of real, ego that gets wrapped up in there. So I think of it as keeping score, though. That's my personal notice there. So that's the last point. And what Alan Wallace says at the end of this. This completes the 7-point mind training and the reflections I have to offer on the practice. What to do next. This may shock you. He says, I'd recommend going back to the beginning of the text and working through it again. For although memory may be reasonably good, we cannot recall everything that we have learned. In truth, can we actually recall all the points? And we've talked about this many times, that really to immerse ourselves in a teaching is to call it to mind over and over again, to get a deeper understanding of it, to really cultivate that if you hear the slogan, you know what it means. It's really sneaky, expecting gratitude and acknowledgement, that somebody doesn't thank you when they're thanking all the other people about me. And there's a sense of real, ego that gets wrapped up in there. So I think of it as keeping score, though. That's my personal notice there. So that's the last point. And what Alan Wallace says at the end of this. This completes the 7-point mind training and the reflections I have to offer on the practice. What to do next. This may shock you. But he says, I'd recommend going back to the beginning of the text and working through it again. For although memory may be reasonably good, we cannot recall everything that we have learned. In truth, can we actually recall all the points? And we've talked about this many times, that really to immerse ourselves in a teaching is to call it to mind over and over again, to get a deeper understanding of it, to really cultivate that if you hear the slogan, you know what it means, that it's intrinsic in its practice. And so he's recommending going back to the preliminaries. And the preliminaries, I know you guys all have that nailed, right? the 4 thoughts that turn your mind to Dharma.
Precious human existence.
Precious human life. And impermanence, karma, and samsara. Man, he's good. And so these are the precious, when we think about preliminaries, this precious opportunity. And I've described, a monk friend of mine who's, he had over 15 years of being a monk and a lot of years in silent retreat and practice. And I asked him where he's at. I'm on the preliminaries. And he's just meditating through them. As if we really get that essence of what a rare and precious human rebirth this is. We're not going to have it forever. And the nature of our thoughts and the karma that's implanted and how that goes from life to life and how it creates the world we live in and our experience of it, as well as the suffering nature, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness. Wow, we'll live differently. You will not. That's why they call it the 4 thoughts that turn your mind to Dharma. If you get realization, you will think of nothing else. It actually takes you into becoming a Buddhist. The path of really being a Buddhist is being a renunciant, to renounce the delusion of this grasping of worldly things, to where nothing out here is really going to matter. What's going to matter is the karma I'm creating, the wisdom I'm cultivating, and to renounce the delusion that anything outside of you will bring you any lasting happiness. And it's just delusion. Can't do it. So when we take some time every day, and we have the one meditation you can get from the website that takes you through that process a bit. It's really powerful to spend a little time every day remembering the rare opportunity we have. It's impermanent. We know that today we're one day closer to our death. That we do know. And what goes on from life to life is the imprints that we create. And nothing outside, none of this worldly stuff that we grab onto, that we hold so tightly, is gonna really matter. It doesn't even matter in this life. I mean, that's what Dan Gilbert decides. 3 months later, same spot. Won the lottery, lost the lottery, won an award, got a divorce, got married. I'm still in the same place. I mean, that's phenomenal, really, when you think about it that way. It doesn't even matter so much in this life, let alone, it's certainly not going to help beyond this life. We won't take that with us. What we will take with us is how we lived our life. And what matters at the time of death is how we lived our life. So what he's recommending is to go back and really work your way through this. Where I think we're going to move into is really thinking about putting together a nice practical teaching on the Eightfold Path and how we can cultivate very practically the 3 higher trainings of ethics, concentration, and wisdom. So I'm doing a little bit of reflection, but I'm thinking now that we keep growing and there's a lot of people in other parts of the country as well, that we can cultivate a really nice text and workbook on teachings that can really address the Eightfold Path. It's a teaching we started with a long time ago, and to be able to maybe use a root text and just give us a real practical application of that. And so, with your permission, we'll see about doing that. Couple minutes. Any questions or thoughts or things that came up before we do our dedication? I'm going to pause for a moment, take a drink. Okay. So before we do our dedication, we always want to acknowledge that These teachings are made possible with Davi Nikent, the Center for Human Flourishing, is a co-sponsor. Read this right over there. And on the back table, they have lots going on. There's always lots going on. You've got to be the busiest woman in this valley. Mindfulness email list, you can be on that as well. And we're going to have a meeting soon and just see if we want to kind of turn this into more of a Dharma center. Have a much more formalized, Buddhist teachings here in the valley. There's been some requests around that, and things seem to be growing. And if that's something that you're interested in and would like to be a part of, let us know, because then we'd form a little group that is interested in having a much more formalized way of Compassion Dharma Center here for the valley that would be able to offer then some additional pieces, different practices and things that we could do as well in retreats. So if you're interested in that, let us know. And we'll see if the karma is there for it, the conditions. So then we'll do it. Okay. So, on behalf of Way of Compassion Foundation and Davi Nikent, we thank all of you, and we will go ahead and do a little dedication on the things we could have been doing on Wednesday night. We're here cultivating merit and wisdom, compassion in our lives. So let us dedicate the virtue and wisdom we have accumulated both individually and collectively, both today and throughout our lives. We dedicate this for the benefit of all beings. May all beings be free of suffering and find lasting happiness. And we dedicate the virtue and wisdom we've accumulated here today and throughout our lives to further our own path, to cultivate the highest potentials of this life, to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. We'll keep being here on Wednesday nights, and do thank you for all of your kindness, time, and energy. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. We'll keep being here on Wednesday nights, and do thank you for all of your kindness, time, and energy. Be well. And as always, stay out of trouble.
Thank you.
Thank you out there, wherever you are.